Good afternoon, students. I would like to welcome you here today at this examination-based contact session for numeracy and mathematics in Nm22. I'm Mr. Van Wyk. I'm your tutor for 2021. Let's start off by the presentation. The aim of this presentation is to guide you through the study guide and the study material and to prepare you for the exams and the assignments for 2021. So please listen very carefully and try to go through the work as indicated. I'm not going to give you many examples as all the information is contained in your study guide. Students, your study guide is the most important source that you need to use next year. The assignment instructions are very important. Questions should be answered on A4 paper only. Do not use a computer to type the mathematics questions, only in cases where you have Word where you can insert the formula. The lesson plans and other written paragraphs may be typed. Write neatly and legibly. Use only a dark blue or a black pen. Pencils may only be used for graphs and diagrams. No pencil work will be marked. Please take note. Students can use a calculator unless otherwise indicated. Show all your calculations. What happened in the past is that students only give an answer while the question is counting 4 marks. Then you only get 1 mark instead of 4 marks. Show your calculations, please. Start every question on a new page. Very important. And write only one side of the paper. For the examination, you need to know the following. Questions should be answered on the question paper. All the questions should be answered. Don't leave any question out, please. The mark allocation is a guideline for the time needed to answer each question. Write neatly and legibly. Use only a dark blue or black pen. Pencils may only be used for graphs and diagrams. No pencil work again will be marked. Students can use a calculator unless otherwise indicated. Show all your calculations, please. No unauthorized material, notes, technical devices, watches may be in your possession. All working should be done on the answering paper, please. Let's have a look at study unit 1, how to read and interpret data. You need to know the difference between the following charts. For example, a pie chart, a bar graph, a table, and a pictograph. Let's have a look at the first one, a pie chart. A pie chart is round like a pie. That's why it's called a pie chart. And you have different slices that indicates the data. A bar graph is one where the horizontal or vertical bars indicate the data. Very important, there's a difference. Some students confuse a bar graph with a table. It's two different things. A table normally gives you all the data that you need to use for drawing a graph. And lastly, a pictograph. A pictograph is plainly a graph using pictures to represent data like you see in the example on your screen. Study Unit 1 also is how to read and interpret data from all the above mentioned charts and tables. Study how to calculate a arithmetic mean, the average. Now if you look at the example, the mean equals the sum of the items over the number of items. You need to know how to calculate it, please. If you are a teacher, you should know how to calculate an average for your class marks. Then it should be really easy. Read further on the value of statistical information, please. Then students, study unit 2. You see that I've presented the presentation in the different study units to make a logic so that you can understand what I'm trying to say. Study unit 2 is operations with whole numbers. Here the significance of a digit's place and the position is very important. The value of a digit is important, for example, tenths or tenths. If you see at the example there, you have 3 units, we have 9 tenths. you have 6 hundredths, 8 thousandths, 10, 14 thousandths, and so on. So you must know the difference between a 10 and a tenth, a hundred and a hundredth, a thousand and a thousand, please. Okay, how to write down the number in words is also important. For example, 45. Sometimes you get students, they get confused to have 79 and 97. Please make sure that you know how to write numbers, the whole numbers. Go also through approximation and rounding off of numbers. If a pencil, for example, costs 28 cents, you should round it off to 30 cents. Or you say that the approximate price is 30 cents. Please consult your study guide for, if the number is 5 and more, you round it up. If it's less than 4 and 1, you round it down. That's very important that you need to know the difference. Please also know the difference equal to. For example, 6 apples is equal to half dozen apples. It's the same. Greater than 7 apples is greater than 5 apples. It's more. Smaller than 5 apples is smaller than 6 apples. Please know the difference, because sometimes the students get confused and they write the wrong answers. Operations with whole numbers. You need to know the 4 main operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. You need to know all those 4. You need to know how to do sums on those. Also know how to solve 2-step problems and word problems. There's a lot of examples in your study guide, in study unit 2. Especially go through the learning activities. You need to go, after you've studied a study unit, do the learning activities so that you can practice what you have learned. That's very important to go through them as well. Study unit 3, the terminology for and operations with common fractions. They start off by the numerator, is the number of parts, for example, that we have. And the denominator is the total parts in a whole. You need to know the difference between a numerator and a denominator, please. Study unit 3 also is very important with all the common fractions. There's an example: 1 whole, 2 halves, 3/3, 4 quarters, 5/5, and so on. Please have a look at that. Then also I gave you an example here, terminology for and operations of common fractions. If you look at the first, number 1, that pie chart is divided into 4 equal parts. So that is not a half, that is not 3 quarters, it's 1 quarter. Make sure. And if you have to draw charts, make sure that all the sizes are the same. You cannot draw one smaller and the other one larger, please. The next one, number 2, that's a classic example I want you to have a look at. It's a pie chart that's divided in half. Now, technically, you can say 2 quarters is correct, but it's not correct, because that pie chart is divided only in 2. So it's a half. It's not 2 quarters. It's a half only. So in the exam, when you write 2 quarters and it shows 1 half, I won't mark it correctly. Please make sure that you understand that. Then the next one is the thirds, 2/3, and 3 quarters, and again 2/3. Please have a look at that charts. Study unit 3 also, you need to know the different types of fractions. A proper fraction is the first one, 4/5. It means the numerator is 4 and the denominator is 5. An improper fraction is where the numerator is bigger than the denominator, like that one in the example, 12/7. Mixed numbers, you need to know the difference, is where a whole number is with a fraction for 1 and 3 quarters, for example. Decimal numbers, that you need to study as well. 3 quarters is 0.75. because it's about 75% of a whole. So have a look at that. And then percentages. 10/100 is 10% because it's only 10 parts. The numerator is 10 and the denominator is 100, so that's 10%. Also fractional part of quantities. This is a very important part on study unit 3. For example, how much is 3 over 5 of 120, 3/5? Then you write 3 over 5 times 120, because of represents times or a multiplication. Then if you look at the back, you'll see 120 divided by 5 equals 24. So that's why the numerator is 3 and the answer is 24 times 3 gives you 72. So 72 is 3/5 of 120. I hope you understand that. Please look at number 3.5 in your study guide for the 3-step problems. Now in your study guide you'll see there's a few examples how to solve a 3-step problem. Example, Peter wants to buy a bicycle that costs 750 Namibian dollars. His father promises to give him 2/5 of the money on condition that he saves the rest from his pocket money. So it's the same as a word sum. For how many months must Peter save if he saves $45 every month? Now what students have done in the past, I saw in the exams as well as the assignments, they only do half of the sum. They leave out the calculations and they only give me an answer. That question, for example, can count 5 marks. Now you only give me an answer. Solution, step 1, calculate how much Peter's father will give him. You give him 2/5 of 750. And like I said, 2/5 times 750, and you divide the 750 by 5 is 150 times 2. So his father will give him 300 Namibian dollars. Now, Peter, how much should Peter save? Peter must save 750, because that was the bicycle cost, less the $300 his father is giving him, and that leaves an amount of 450 Namibian dollars. Then, still the sum is not finished. Step 3, calculate the number of months at $45 per month. So, if you have a look at that, is 450 divided by 45 give you 10. So you must save for 10 months, $45 a month, so that he can buy his bicycle. I hope you understand that. Please make sure that you do the whole sum, not only part of the sum. Then ensure how to arrange all fractions in ascending and descending. If you have a look at the arrow on the right hand side, ascending is where you go up. So from the least to the most, and other way around, descending down. Try to remember that. Descending down is downwards, from the highest to the lowest. Example number 1, write a decimal number in ascending order, 3,45, 2,54, 4,76, and so on. Then you compare the whole numbers. You'll see, okay, that you have a 2, you have a 3, you have a 4, and a 4. Now you know that the 2 is the smallest. So that's why it's 2,54. Then you have a look at 3,45. Then you have 2 4s, 4,67 and 4,76. So which one is bigger? 4,76. That's why it's last. So it's from the smallest up, ascending to the highest. Example 2, descending order, 1,04, 2,43, 0,30, 0,03. Compare the whole numbers and you'll see. Then you compare the tenths. So 2,43 is the biggest, 1,04 second, 0,30 because you have 3 tenths, and 0,03 you have 3 hundredths. That's why it's the smallest. Good. Very well. Let's continue. In paragraphs 4.2 and 4.22 in your study guide, study unit 4, you'll see that a number with 1 decimal place is a fraction of 10 as the denominator. For example, 0,3. It's only 1 place behind the comma. So that's why it's 3 tenths. 0,9, 1 place after the comma, 9 over 10, because it is tenth. 0,1, 1 over 10. Then a number with 2 decimal places is a fraction of 100, and we call it a hundredth. 0.23 is 23 over 100 because the denominator is 100. 0.67 over 100 and 0.54 54 over 100. Then the next one is a number with 3 decimal places, is a fraction with 100 or 100th as we call it, as a denominator. Examples, 0.453 is 453 over 1,000 and 621 over 1,000 and so on. You see there's a pattern. So remember, 1 decimal place is 10th, 2 is 100th, and 3 is 1,000th. Good. Now, study Unit 5. It's all about money. Now, they say money makes the world go round, and you need to know how to do addition and subtraction of money. For example, you know you must express money in a decimal notation. You must add and subtract amounts of money. The concept of profit and loss, very, very important. Look in your study guide and study Unit 5. The profit, if you sell something and you make money out of it, or if you sell something and you lose money, that's a loss. The cost price is what you paid for the object, and the selling price, that needs special attention. Please have a look at that. I'll give you one example. Study Unit 5. Peter bought a laptop for $2,500 Namibian dollars and then sold it at a profit of 10%. Calculate the selling price of the laptop. Now remember, he bought it for $2,500. Now you need to go, it's easy, I can just do it from my head. 10% of 2,500 is 250. But what about the marks? You don't get any marks for your calculations. I need to see your calculations. Okay, profit made. 10% of 2,500 Namibian dollars is 10 over 100. Because 10% is 10 units of 100 times 2,500 over 1. Then you cross it out. 100 goes in 1, goes in 25 times. And you get 10 times 25, gives you 250. So that is your calculation to get the 10%. Now, what is the cost and the profit? So he paid 2,500 Namibian dollars. His profit is 250, so he sold the laptop for 2,750 Namibian dollars. That's a good profit. Well done. Okay, try to remember that. Then study Unit 6. Terminology for and operation for measures of length, mass, and capacity. Here I saw in the assignments and the exam that some students really got confused between length and mass and capacity. We use the metric system of measurement, or the SI system. Now, for example, we have 3 basic units of measurement. A unit of length is the meter with a symbol m, small m. The unit of mass is a kilogram with the symbol of kg. And the unit of time is the second with a symbol of small s. With these 3 units, you can measure anything in the world. Okay, terminology, the same unit. If you have 1 kilometer, how many meters is that? And you can use this as an example. So 1 kilometer times 1,000 gives you 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer. 100 centimeters is 1 meter. Okay. And 1,000 millimeter is 1 meter. The other way around. If you have 1 millimeter divided by 10, get centimeter times divided by 100 and divided by 1,000. Okay, so if I have 1,000 meters, how many kilometers is 1,000 meter? 1. Good. Also ensure that you know the 4 basic operations of length, mass, and capacity. In other words, subtraction and multiplication, division, and adding. Remember that. Practice conversions from length, mass, capacity over and over and over. I cannot emphasize that. Practice, practice, practice. Learn, for example, How many millimeters are there in a meter? 1,000. You need to know that. If you sit in an exam, you don't need to wonder how many millimeters are there in a meter. You need to know that beforehand. Study Unit 7. There's a lot of terminology, and you need to know these things. You have to learn it so that you can practice it in the exam. There are 60 seconds in 1 minute in the second line. There are 60 minutes in 1 hour. There are 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 4 weeks in a month, and 12 months in a year. You need to know that. You have to learn it. Please go through that very thoroughly. Then you get a calendar year. It's 365 days. I can ask you a question. For example, in a calendar year, then you need to use 365 days. Or if I ask how a quarter of 365 days of a calendar year, then you need to do the calculation. A leap year, I can also ask a leap year. It's 366 days. A decade is 10 years. A century is 100 years. Previous means coming before. If yesterday was Saturday, the previous day was a Friday. The previous comes before. Current means happening now. Today is Wednesday. And the future, it means still have to happen. Good. Now, also here, very important, the terminology and readings of time. Students need to know how to convert seconds to minutes, minutes to hours, and so on and so on. Need to learn that. Then, if you have, what we do with time, we start with 12 noon. You see there, 12 noon. From 12 o'clock midnight to 12 o'clock noon, it's AM. It means anti-meridian. Anti-meridian means before noon. After that is PM, post-meridian, and it's afternoon. Then, the students struggle is the 12-hour clock and the 24-hour clock. If I have a look at that picture there, 6 o'clock in the morning on a 12-hour clock, you see there 6:00. In the evening, it's 6 p.m. because it's afternoon. The morning, it's 6 a.m. But on a 24-hour clock, 6 in the morning is 6, while 6 in the afternoon is 1800 hours. Okay, you need to know that concept between 12 and 24-hour clocks. Now, I also saw in the assignment and the exam that students were struggling with these lines. There's nothing to it. You should learn how the lines look. An obtuse angle, an acute angle is a sharp one, a point, a ray, parallel lines. Students get confused with parallel lines and intersecting lines. A line segment, and a right angle. A right angle is 90 degrees. Then you also get perpendicular lines where they cross, and then you get intersecting lines. Have a look at that one. Very important. That's the type of things that I'm going to ask. Then, have a look at angles. Study Unit 8. You must know all the different angles. Acute angle. A right angle is 90 degrees. An obtuse angle. A straight angle, it's 180 degrees. So I can ask you a question on these angles. A reflex angle is bigger than 180 and smaller than 360. So please study those terminology. Also, triangles. You get a different triangles there. Right angle triangle, an equilateral triangle, for example. If I ask you to draw a right angle triangle, there should be one side should be 90 degrees, as you see in the examples. So I'll give you all these examples. Then, terminology for 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional shapes. The square is all the sides have the same length, and the angles are equal to 90 degrees. Students, really, please learn the properties of the shapes. A parallelogram, a rhombus, a trapezium. Go through the properties. A rhombus is all sides have the same length and opposite angles are equal. If you look at the opposite angles, it's equal. Another one, I gave you all these examples. I'm not going to ask all these, but like the angles, the triangles, the parallelograms, the squares, the rectangles, that's the thing I'm going to ask. Know the difference between these geometric shapes, please. Go through them one by one, see if you understand, look at the properties, and make sure you understand the difference between the different angles or a parallelogram and a rectangle. There's a big difference. Okay, another one is a sphere, a cube, a square-based pyramid, a cuboid, a cone. I gave you these as examples to go through that. You see that the curved sphere is one curved surface. It's round. It has no edges and no vertices. Now, have a look at a cylinder. Two faces, one curved surface, 12 edges and no vertices. Have a look at these things, that you know the properties, because that is where you need to answer the questions. Okay. Then ensure you know how to calculate the perimeter and the area of all the shapes. Please go through the calculation of volume very, very thoroughly. The perimeter, area and volume, very, very important. That's in study unit 8. For example, there's a calculation of shapes, the perimeter and area of plane figures, and the volume and surface area of a solid figure. If you look at the rectangle, the perimeter is equals 2 times length plus 2 times width. Because it has 4 sides, the opposing sides are the same length, that is the perimeter. If you look at the volume, there's the calculation how to do the volume. For example, a rectangular prism is volume equals length times width times height. That is the volume. Make sure you know how to calculate these shapes. Study unit 8. This one, very important, the perimeter. If you look at number A, you get a perimeter. The small side on top is 2 centimeter. The right hand side is 4 centimeter. Then you get a small one, 2 centimeters, and below it's 4. Now you see on the left hand side, there's something missing. Now it's very easy, because the one is 4, the one across that is also 4, if you see the dotted line, and a small one should be 2. So that length should be 6 centimeters. And now you can do the perimeter, for example, or the area, depending on what I'm asking. Know the difference between the area and the perimeter, please. Number C, have a look at C. 3 centimeters on top, 4 centimeters, 1 centimeter, 7. So the side is what? 4 plus 1, it's 5. Okay. Now if you have a look at the bottom, 7, and you get 2 spaces, 7 less 4, less 3 is 4 divided by 2, because there's 2 spaces on each side. It's 2 centimeter, 2 centimeter. Okay. Because 2 plus 3 plus 2 is 7. Same. Okay, make sure you know that. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Now, students, I've seen in the past they study unit 9 and 10, they don't get a lot of attention. So what I like about these 2 units is that it gives you teaching and learning activities and materials for grade 2 and grade 3 mathematics. For you as a teacher, how to prepare your lessons and how to do learning activities in mathematics for your students. Read through these examples very thoroughly on how to present a lesson in different areas of mathematics. That's very important. You need to go through that you understand how to give lessons for grade 2 and 3. The whole unit 9 and the whole unit 10. It's a lot of examples on lessons, and I hope you use it which school you are teaching to give lessons on that subject. Okay, general remarks I would like to add. Use the internet to expand your knowledge. Please be accurate in your workings and answers. 2 things very important in mathematics is accuracy and neatness. I don't like marking answer scripts that's not neat. Please write neatly, one side of the page, like I said. Start every question on a new page. Do you work neatly? Because I'm not going to look for answers. If I don't see an answer, I'm not going to mark it. Make sure about that. Do not leave out any questions. Do the questions that you can, come back to the questions you left out. Please do all the questions. Rather get 1 mark as just leave it out. The learning activities, very important, I'm saying again. The learning activities is very important as you can use them to practice the content. I would like to wish all of you the best for the upcoming examinations and for your assignments in 2021. And remember, education is the greatest equalizer. There's my number and my email address if you have any questions. Like I said in the tutorial later, you can contact me between 5 and 6 or 5 and 7 in the evenings if you need to. And I hope you learned something from today, and the best of luck. Thank you.